in program management, academic delivery, and student success in the EdTech domain. He is also an avid follower of recent developments in the field of cryptocurrency and blockchain management. Welcome, Nithin.
Hey, thank you, Geethu. Thank you for the warm welcome. Welcome everyone to this session. I hope we can start with the session. Like Geethu was saying, the session is on the rise of blockchain and cryptocurrency and implications that in business, basically. So I am sure you guys must have all heard of this term, blockchain and cryptocurrency. It's definitely a rave or a fad that the business is undergoing with blockchain and cryptocurrency. And many of you might have also, keenly looked at it from the perspective of an investor. Many of you would have looked at investing in cryptocurrencies, and there is a lot of ambiguity around cryptocurrency and what the future holds for this very new way of transacting. So in this webinar, what we are trying to do is understand what cryptocurrency and blockchain is all about. As you might be aware, blockchain is the fundamental technology, and cryptocurrency is more or less the application that sits on top of this underlying technology, which is blockchain. So we will try and demystify, if I can call it, what blockchain is and what cryptocurrency is, and we will also try and understand what is its imperative for business in the future. How can businesses and you as individuals again leverage the power of this new technology and this new application? Okay, so that's what we will be going through in this session. And like Geethu was saying, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to post it in the chat box, and towards the end of our session we will take some questions. If time permits, we will go through all of the questions. Otherwise, we will take some questions and we will look at having a discussion around those questions. So let's go ahead and start. Now, just give me a second. Yeah. So first, let's try and understand what is blockchain. Okay, because blockchain is the fundamental technology, and without a good understanding of what blockchain is, it will not be possible for us to go through cryptocurrency. So let us first try and understand what blockchain is. Blockchain is essentially a decentralized database. Okay, so a database is basically nothing but a network of computers which is holding some information within it. Okay, so blockchain is also a type of a database, but it is different from other databases in that it is a decentralized database. So we do not have one computer or one set of computers handling the information when it comes to blockchain. We have what is called a distributed network of computers which are holding this information. Okay, so blockchain is a technology that is using databases and the database systems and decentralizing it across a vast network of computers, mostly across the globe. Okay, and it is the information is not at all stored in a central repository or a central server, and it also uses encryption technology to ensure that the data that is stored in this blockchain is secure and cannot be very easily accessed or tampered with. Okay, so we will get into how blockchain creates a web of security in the data that it's holding. But in the beginning, it is important to understand that blockchain is creating a decentralized network of information that is completely secure and cannot be accessed or tampered with. Okay. Now, the fundamental building block of the blockchain is what is called one block. Okay, and each block is being interlinked to the next block in the blockchain using a chain. So you can basically imagine a blockchain as a set of blocks, and each of these blocks are interlinked to the previous block using what is called a chain. Okay, and each block in the blockchain is essentially a set of information, or it stores a unit of information that is encrypted within that block. Okay, and yeah, sorry for that. And unit of information within that block is basically encrypted, and the block also contains information of the previous block that it is connected to. Okay, so if you imagine, let's say 10 blocks, the 10th block has a unit of information stored within it, and it also contains information
Nithin,
of, yeah.
Sorry, Nithin, sorry to interrupt. There's a small sound issue. Voice is becoming feeble.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes,
yeah,
it's better.
So each block holds a unique set of information. Okay, and it also holds the information of the previous block. Okay, so the important thing to note here is that because each block holds the information of the previous block, if any block within this blockchain needs to be accessed, or the data within this block needs to be changed, then you also need to access all the blocks that were previously connected to it. Okay, so it is because of this reason that the data stored within a blockchain becomes almost impenetrable or unchangeable once it is once it becomes part of the blockchain. Any new block that gets added into the blockchain, it is very difficult to alter the data in that block, because if you want to change the data of any block in the blockchain, you have to change the data of the previous block, or we have to access the data in the previous block that is connected to the block to change. Okay, so that becomes virtually impossible. And another aspect of this blockchain network is that before adding any new block into this blockchain, there is a validation process that the block goes through. Okay, as I was mentioning in the beginning, in the blockchain, the computer networks are distributed. There is no one central machine or set of machines that organizes and accesses this data. And because the database is distributed across a wide set of computers or computer networks, before any block is added into a blockchain, what happens is that uh, there is a verification process that this block goes through, and every network in the blockchain, every computer network that is part of this blockchain must validate uh, the the data or the consistency or the state, as it is technically called, of that block before it becomes part of the blockchain. Okay, so let's say this network has around this blockchain has around 1,000 computer networks. Every time a new block gets added into the blockchain, all these 1,000 networks must come to a consensus on the state of this block, and only then the block gets added into the blockchain. So even if one network uh, is not in an alignment regarding the state of that block, then the block will not get added into this blockchain network. Okay, so there is a process of uh, checking or consensus that happens before the block is added into the network, and once the block gets added into the network, it is almost virtually impossible to change the data in that block, because you need to access all the previous blocks that is linked to that block in the blockchain. So this makes blockchain uh, a very good technology when it comes to having secure transactions, and blockchain builds a level of trust among the users, and that is why uh, blockchain has become so popular as the new network of trusted and safe transactions that can happen in business. Okay, so that is why, if you can see the slide, what is mentioned is here is that the record that a blockchain keeps becomes permanent and irreversible, and blockchain always keeps digital assets that needs to be transacted and traded in real time.
Nithin, sorry to interrupt. I think you are still on the first page, blockchain basics.
I'm talking about the first page.
Okay,
now. So that is, I hope this has given some clarity regarding what blockchain technology is all about. And obviously, we are not going in deep diving into the actual technological concept of framework behind blockchain in the session, but still, for understanding, we need to have a basic understanding of what blockchain technology is all about. Now, coming to the application of blockchain, blockchain, because of the framework that we have established in blockchain now, one of the major applications of blockchain is in terms of its financial applications, wherein we can create an entirely new form of financial transactions using this framework of blockchain, and that is what we term as cryptocurrency. Okay, so cryptocurrency is literally the financial application that blockchain has brought into picture. But blockchain has several other applications as well. So because of the secure and irrevertible structure that blockchain has created, it becomes a medium through which you can do any kind of transaction, and you can be rest assured that the transaction is very transparent, and the transaction only happens if a certain set of criterias are met. Okay, So let's say a typical example that we can give here is regarding a land transaction. Okay, so let's say you own a property and you wish to sell that property to a buyer. So as you might be aware, there are several processes that are involved in selling this property off to a buyer. You need several government offices need to be involved, several financial institutions need to be involved. You are there is a level of trust or insecurity you have towards the buyer of this property, because you're not really sure if he has the right to buy your property. Maybe some fraudulent transactions can happen while you are it's a very complicated process when you want to try and sell your property to another buyer. Okay, but what blockchain can come in and do here is that blockchain can make this transaction very seamless and efficient, and also make sure that it is there are no illegal activities that are being done while you're executing this deal. Okay, so this entire process of you transferring your property into somebody else's name can be automated, and the blockchain will essentially write a set of code wherein your property or this transaction will be recorded, and your property will move from your name to the buyer's name. And obviously it will be preceded by several conditions. Let's say the first condition must be that the relevant taxes for this property has been paid off, and once the blockchain becomes aware that the transaction of all the taxes have been completed, then that block will the code or the information in that block will get executed, and the next block will start coming into picture or will start activating, and the next block might be checking if the buyer, there is enough money in the buyer's account for making this transaction. And then if there is enough money in the buyer's bank account, then that block also gets executed, and the blockchain will move into the next block where the transfer of ownership happens from your name to the buyer's name. So, the biggest advantage with blockchain is that there is a seamless integration of many entities that were involved. Let's say the government, the financial institution, you as the seller, and somebody else as the buyer. All of them are integrated into this block, and there is also a high level of security and transparency that is involved here. Okay, so any kind of such complex transactions can be handled through the blockchain. But from a business point of view, and from the standpoint of such complex transactions, we should be aware that what are the potential applications for blockchain when it comes to financial operations of your business, and in terms of executing such complex transactions. Okay, so that is a brief overview about blockchain and its major applications, both in finance and in terms of other transactions. Okay, moving on, let's look at a few of the benefits and some of the unknowns that are associated with this technology. The first, the benefit of blockchain is that there is a high level of transparency. So like I was discussing, each and every transaction that happens in the blockchain needs to be validated by all the networks, or what are called nodes within this blockchain. So the level of transparency that is happening in the blockchain is very high, and obviously it's a decentralized network. So no single entity or no single organization is in control of this network. So that makes that makes this whole network or this whole framework very transparent. Okay. The next key benefit is in terms of tracking, because each block within the blockchain also records the timestamp when any kind of modifications or alterations were made on this particular on the particular block, and which means that at, at a very granular level, you have control in terms of all the alterations and modifications that were made on each and every block within the blockchain. So there is a high level of tracking that happens, and everyone is critically aware, really aware of each and every transaction and each and every modification that has been made in the blockchain. And only if there is consensus among all the participants in the blockchain network can any kind of modification be made on an existing block in the blockchain. Okay. And the next key benefit when it comes to blockchain is in terms of it being a permanent ledger. So once a block or once a piece of information has been updated in the blockchain, then there is really no way you can change the information in that blockchain, which makes it not only a permanent ledger, but also a very secure permanent ledger. Okay, so there is really no way you can alter the information that is given in that blockchain. And just a little bit of technical information here is that you might be wondering how, let's say, a complex piece of information, a complex digital asset like the ownership of your property, how can that be incorporated into the blockchain? So what blockchain basically does is that it takes this whole information and it synthesizes it into a piece of code. Okay, and it is going to be a 64-bit piece of code, and this piece of code is generated based on the information that you have in the digital asset or the digital information that you are putting into the blockchain. Okay? So once you have a digital asset or an information that you want to include into the blockchain network basically looks at that information and synthesizes that information into a piece of code or a 64-bit code, which basically is what is being held within the block of that blockchain. Okay, and each block also has a unique address that is associated with it, and the address is also generated in the blockchain or in that block. And looking at the address or the code that was generated, you can easily verify the content of the block. Okay, so since the address was created using the information or the digital asset that is part of this block, through by looking at the address or by verifying the address, you can easily identify whether any alterations or modifications were made on the block. Okay, but it is not possible the other way around. Okay, you cannot by accessing this information, you will not be able to decode what is there in the block, but you can understand whether there has been any change that has been made on the information in this block. Okay, so like I was saying, again, it becomes very difficult to make any sort of changes into any of the blocks in the blockchain, and therefore the blockchain becomes a permanent ledger. And obviously there is an aspect of cost reduction, because you do not have any centralized network or servers that you are maintaining, or you do not have a vast human workforce that is behind operating and maintaining these kind of ledgers. Again, in the with respect to the example that we were giving regarding the land deal, you if it were to be executed physically, yeah, I'm sure you guys must all realize or understand what are the costs that are involved. But because of the level of automation that happens within the blockchain network, there is a significant reduction in the cost associated with executing such transactions. So those are some of the benefits of blockchain technology. Now coming to some of the challenges or some of the unknowns where blockchain is still trying to evolve itself. The first one here is that it's a very complex technology, and no one has really gotten their head around how this technology can really function. And because of the complex nature of this technology, it is not easy for anyone to become part of this blockchain framework. You can only be, most of us can become part of this framework by transacting in terms of the value tokens like the bitcoins or any of the other cryptocurrencies that are being created as part of this blockchain framework. But there are people who are called blockchain miners, who are basically part of the blockchain network itself. But in order to be part of the blockchain network, you need to, because of the complex nature of this technology, you need to be technically adept, and that makes the entry into this network quite difficult. Obviously, there are also regulatory implications, because there is no central agency or central government that is overseeing all of the transactions that are happening within its network. So this gives rise to a lot of transactions that that can be done, without permission from the government or without consent from the government as well. So there are a lot of regulatory implications, and most of the governments are still trying to figure out what the regulatory implications should be, and based on which country you are from, some of the regulatory frameworks that are established may vary. Okay, so you might have some countries that are very inclined towards this new form of technology and transactions through this technology, and there are even several countries who have invested their money in cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. But there are also some other countries who are working at it more critically and taking their time and slowly establishing certain frameworks around how businesses within the country and you as individuals can become part of this new economy and this new technology. So there are a lot of regulatory implications, and that's still a gray area here. And there are also as implementation challenges, and like I was saying, this is a new form of technology, and though it has its advantages, there are some disadvantages as well. So if you want to understand the implementation challenges, we will have to look at it from a technical standpoint, in that, like I was saying, when any block needs to be added into the blockchain network, there needs to be what is called a validation that happens across the blockchain network. And because for each and every transaction, this validation needs to happen. The computation that is involved in adding a block into the blockchain is quite high, and computation requires energy. So one of the biggest challenges with executing a blockchain network that is increasing in size is in terms of the energy consumption, because for validating the blocks in the blockchain, there's a lot of energy consumption that is involved, and it is even estimated that currently the energy consumption that Bitcoin, which is a very famous or a well-known cryptocurrency, the main cryptocurrency that is available right now. So it is estimated that the energy consumption that is happening in terms of Bitcoin mining is even more than the total energy consumption of some countries in Europe, some smaller countries in Europe. So that is the kind of energy consumption that goes into maintaining this distributed network. And because of that, there are a lot of challenges with regards to how scalable this framework is, and also with regards to the micro level transactions that you can do using this technology. Say, for example, if it's a land deal like the one that we were discussing before, where hundreds of thousands of dollars may be involved, then it really makes sense for us to invest all this energy and computation in validating this transaction and adding it as a block into the network. But imagine you are going over to Starbucks and you're just ordering a cup of coffee and you want to transact in Bitcoins, then the amount of computation and the amount of validation that is required behind that transaction does not justify the value of the transaction itself. Okay, you might be getting a coffee for, let's say, half a cent or $1, and the transaction or the computation that happens to validate that transaction is not really justified. So there are a lot of issues in terms of challenges, in terms of the scalability and the sustainability of these kind of blockchain. We also have a lot of competing platforms. So within the cryptocurrency space itself, like how we will probably be discussing, we have a lot of competing platforms. We have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, we have Solario, we have Shiba Inu. We have so many competing platforms, and what is important to understand is that the survival of any blockchain network is solely dependent on the number of users in that network. So if you do not have enough participants who are part of that network, who are developing that network, then really that framework will not be sustainable. It cannot last, because your fundamental premise is in creating a decentralized network, and you want more and more participants who are coming into this network and validating all of the transactions that are happening in this network. So that's a little bit about the benefits and the unknowns when it comes to this new technology on Bitcoin, blockchain. Now let's also look at some of the potential applications of blockchain itself before we really deep dive into one of its very interesting applications, and one of its really wider application of cryptocurrency. That is actually one application of blockchain in the financial sector, or in terms of the economic sector or in the economic side of things. But blockchain as a framework has several other applications as well, and we have I've listed a few here. So in automotive industry also, what can happen in the future is that you really wouldn't have to own an automobile, and if you are part of the blockchain network, you can exchange your value token, or let's say coins, uh, for the ownership of uh, an automobile for a certain period of time. Okay, and it can even be that, let's say, this automobile is available for open bidding, and the person who shells out the most number of bitcoins or tokens basically get ownership of that vehicle for a limited period of time. Okay, you can even say that there are implications for blockchain in terms of traffic management as well. So let's say there's a very busy lane which is always crowded with cars or vehicles, and the blockchain system can basically create an incentive system where only if you give out a certain number of shell out a certain number of bitcoins or value tokens will you be given entry into that road or into that area. So this can really have implications in creating a decentralized traffic system or a traffic control network. You really do not need a centralized traffic management network like you have right now, where obviously there is a centralized network that is handling the traffic of a particular city or a particular area. Using this blockchain framework, you can more or less decentralize it and automate it. Okay, so those are the kind of implications that this technology can have in the automotive sector. Financial sector, obviously, we know how cryptocurrency has taken over the financial sector, and we will discuss about that in our subsequent slides. Let's take another example of voting. This is a very interesting application of blockchain, because anyone who can basically any constituent can vote for a candidate sitting at his using a computer or a laptop or a mobile phone, and
Sorry, Nithin. Nithin, can you try to keep the mic closer? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So one of the other very interesting implications is with regards to, let's say, something like voting, where you can, using your laptop or your mobile phone, vote for the candidate of your choice, and your vote will essentially be recorded as a transaction in the blockchain network. And because of the fundamental premise on which the blockchain network is built, only one unique block for your vote can be created in the blockchain, and it needs to be validated by all of the computer networks who are part of this decentralized network, which essentially means that you cannot vote two times, and nobody else can duplicate your vote. And you can also ensure that there is total secrecy or anonymity when it comes to the vote that you have given, which has taken out all of the inefficiencies or corruptions related to the voting process, if you look at it. So that's one very, very interesting application of the blockchain network. And again, in healthcare also, there is application of the blockchain network, because you can store your medical records and your medical information again in the blockchain network, and this information can very seamlessly be transferred from one hospital to another without any sort of any sort of problems in terms of the consistency of the data, or in terms of the data being manipulated. And also, again, your medical records are very safe and secure. Okay, so uh, it is very important here to understand that the most uh, crucial application of blockchain is in terms of inter-organizational transactions. Okay, so with the technology that we have so far, we have the operations or processes within an organization more or less figured out. Let's say we take a hospital, or we take a financial institution like a bank. Within their uh, within their field of operations, or within the organizations, the technology allows them to be more or less efficient. There are really no issues. But the whole problem arises when there are inter-organizational transactions. Let's say one hospital needs to communicate some information to another hospital, or let's even take the simple example of you needing to move from one country to another. And that whole process can be very tedious because there is really no efficient mechanism by which these two nations are able to transact or transfer information very seamlessly. Okay, so that is one of the most crucial applications of blockchain, because of the decentralized nature of the blockchain network. You can create a system where organizations can very seamlessly transact with each other. Okay, so that's where the application of healthcare also comes into play. And obviously the financial services sector will be something that we will look at in more detail in the coming slides. Now, here I have a very basic framework of how this blockchain system works, so that you have a fundamental understanding of how this blockchain system operates. Okay, so starting with someone requesting a transaction within this blockchain network. So that is where we are initiating a request to add a block into the blockchain. Okay, once that request has been initiated, the requested transaction will be broadcasted into a peer-to-peer network, which is essentially the blockchain network, which consists of a set of decentralized computers, which are called as nodes. Okay. Now, after the requested transaction has been broadcasted to all of the nodes, then a process of validation happens, where the network of nodes will validate the transaction and the status of the block using certain preset algorithms. Okay, so all of the networks or all of the nodes within the blockchain network will do this activity, and only if all of the networks who were part of this transaction come to consensus on the state of the block using the algorithms that were run on this requested transaction, will then the transaction be verified. Okay, and the verified transaction can be anything. It can be a cryptocurrency, it can be a digital asset such as a contract or a record, or it can be any kind of digital asset. Okay, but basically we are checking whether this digital asset is not a copy of any other block in the blockchain, and whether the information provided in this block is the one and only single truth regarding that transaction. Okay, so that in future, if there is any altered state in that transaction, then it needs to be validated by all of the nodes again before any change in that transaction can be made. Okay, so that is where the crux of the blockchain network is. Now, once that transaction is basically verified, it will then be combined with all the other transactions that form part of that broader network of transactions, and a new block of data will be created, which is then called the ledger. And the blockchain is always essentially creating what is called the distributed ledger. Okay, so we have a distributed set of systems, and the blockchain is creating, based on what we've seen so far, at the end of the day, blockchain is creating a distributed ledger. Okay, and that distributed ledger will then become part of the block, which is in such a way that this block is cannot be removed from the system, or the data in that block cannot be changed in the system, and a copy of this block can never be created. Okay, so that essentially forms one block of the blockchain, and every day new blocks are getting added into the blockchain network. Okay, I think in the Bitcoin network, a block is getting added every 12 seconds, is what I think. So basically, blocks are getting added into the blockchain network, and this network is growing, both in terms of the number of computer networks that are involved in the block, or the nodes that are involved in the block, and in terms of the number of blocks that are part of this blockchain network. Okay, and once that much is done, then the transaction becomes complete, and we have a permanent, irrefutable digital block, or a digital repository of the transaction that was done. Okay, so that is how the blockchain network is created, and that is the application of the blockchain network. Now let's take a brief look at business blockchains. Okay, so what are the business implications of this blockchain network? Okay, basically, you're using business blockchain to reinvent how transactions were managed. Okay, again, going back to our previous example, you had several entities who were part of any given transaction, and it would take a whole lot of time and cost in executing that transaction. Maybe a land deal could take months or even years for the transaction to be complete, but in the blockchain network, it can happen in a matter of seconds. Okay, so the blockchain network is being used to take out the time and cost in any process, and they're basically automating and making all of the operations almost real time. And there is also a high degree of accuracy and control, with very less risk of security or tampering of data that happens. Okay, then another important term that you will come across when you discuss blockchain is what are called smart contracts. Okay, so smart contract is just an application or an extension of what we were discussing here, in the sense that it is a smart contract because it knows exactly what to do at what point in time, and the entire contract gets executed based on the inputs that are given into the contract. So if the contract states that if such and such things happen, then these things should happen, and then if these things happen, then another set of action should be taken. So based on how the contract is framed, the Bitcoin network will automatically check whether the clauses within the contract have been executed or not. Okay, and once it has been confirmed that the clauses within the contract has been executed, it is only then that uh, the the subsequent clauses will be executed, okay, based on whether the primary clauses were satisfied or not. So simple example again would be, if the person has, say, a certain amount of money in the bank account, only then would the land transaction move forward. Okay, so a smart contract is essentially a contract where you really do not need any human intervention, and most of the clauses or the execution of the contract is more or less automated. Okay, so that is what is called a smart contract, and the smart contract is again executed using the distributed ledger or the distributed ledger system that the blockchain is creating. We also have, when it comes to business, we also have the application of blockchain in terms of uh, using the value token or the currency of these blockchains to make orders, or you have applications in terms of trading. Again, trading is a very interesting example because there are again a multiple layers of organizations that are involved in any kind of trade, especially international trade. Okay, so you have a country, you have a trading entity that is shipping the good, then you have a trading entity that is receiving the good, and you also have the host country and so on. So even in terms of the trading process, again, when there are multiple such entities involved, uh, blockchain can become very very helpful, or it can more or less automate this whole process, and all of these entities can very seamlessly communicate or transact with each other. So it has a lot of implications in terms of trading. uh, Intercompany transactions and reconciliations can also happen using the uh, blockchain technology. So not only just finance, even in terms of supply chain management, asset tracking, warranty services, regulatory compliances, with or without government involved, all of these can be streamlined using the blockchain network. So these are some of the primary business implications of blockchain and the cryptocurrency network. Okay. So if you look at the last paragraph there, you'll see that although blockchain can operate as standalone solutions, the value of blockchain is realized, or the value of blockchain realized increases very significantly when they are combined with other technologies, when the processes are not within the organization or within an entity, but between entities. Okay, so that is where the real value of blockchain lies. Okay, and we also must understand that it's a very nascent technology, and there are a lot of challenges ahead that we have already discussed. And even blockchain is in a stage of evolution. I think we are right now in the third version of blockchain. A lot of companies are exploring this new technology and how some of the inherent challenges in the blockchain technology that we have right now can be overcome. So I think right now we are in blockchain 3.0, and they're really looking at how the blockchain technology can be made sustainable environmentally and financially. Okay, so there is a long road ahead, but I think the framework is very interesting because uh, the biggest advantage of the blockchain network, whether it's for a business or for an individual, is that it is a decentralized network. So because it's a decentralized network, you do not have one organization or one nation or one entity controlling the transactions that are happening. It is a completely decentralized network where no single participant in the network is more important than the other. Okay, so it's a very flat structure. You do not have any kind of hierarchies involved, and this makes the entire transaction within this framework very uh, very transparent. Nobody has anything to gain out of it. So that is one of the primary advantages of the blockchain network. And the decentralization aspect of blockchain is what makes it so unique, and that is what you as professionals and individuals need to understand about the blockchain network. Now let's look at how we can assess blockchain opportunities. And so this is in alignment with what we have been discussing so far in terms of when do we really see an opportunity in establishing a blockchain network, whether it be this is again mostly from the organizational or from the business standpoint. So there is a limited or no fit when there is no need for multiple parties to share in creating or maintaining a transaction record. Okay, for multiple parties trading inside of a single parent company, blockchain could be an effective solution for processing intercompany transactions. Intercompany is also a good way to pilot a blockchain solution. So basically, we are looking at opportunities where there are intercompany transactions, and when multiple separate companies need to write or add to the ledger, then blockchain can be an effective way to streamline this transaction. We are essentially making sure that there are no duplicate entries that are going into the ledger. Okay, so you are basically having or using blockchain to create one single source of truth. Okay, so you cannot have one company stating one thing and the other company that was involved in this transaction stating something else, because by very nature of the blockchain network, you can only have a one block that is carrying a certain set of information, and you cannot have a copy of that block, and you cannot have a duplicate of that block, or you cannot have a wrong information or incorrect information given in the block, because the block will only get added if there is consensus in terms of the information it's being stored through all nodes that are operating in the network. Okay, so it there is a high fit when multiple separate companies need to write or add information into the ledger. Okay, so the strong fit of a blockchain in business is when there are multiple manufacturers, suppliers, customers, service providers, transportation providers, regulators, and even tax authorities that are involved in the entire transaction. So let's take the example of a manufacturing company who is manufacturing a certain product. Okay, and it is dealing with multiple suppliers of its product. It is dealing with a whole array of customers. It also has tie-ups with several service providers, transportation providers. There are a lot of because it's operating a manufacturing plant, there are a lot of regulators that are involved, and there are several tax implications when it comes to financial transactions. So for such a business or for such an entity, blockchain presents a very strong opportunity, because again this entity is transacting over several inter-organizational entities. Okay, so that is where there is a very strong fit when it comes to the blockchain technology. Now you also need to consider the complexity attribute when you're looking at blockchain opportunities. So when the purpose of the transaction itself is very clearly defined, and there are not many sub processes involved. It's a pretty linear transaction. Okay, then blockchain technology might not be that practical. Okay, uh, unless you have the previous fitness factor wherein you have multiple entities involved, which again uh, is let's say advocating the use of blockchain. But as long as that fit is not adhered to or doesn't make any sense, then if the process itself is pretty linear, narrow, focused, not many steps involved, then again blockchain technology has a very limited or zero fit. Okay, but let's take an example for an example where uh, a broad set of complex processes are involved. Okay, so here the example that I have here is in terms of, let's say, food safety, healthcare, mortgage underwriting. Okay, so when a set of organizations have a targeted purpose, here also the purpose is targeted, but there are a set of organizations involved. Okay, and the transaction will involve all of these companies. Then obviously blockchain is a good fit, and blockchain is a very strong fit when a group of companies facing a broad set of complex processes or purposes can benefit greatly from standing up blockchains across their trading systems. So blockchains enable the management of things like asset purchases, financing, warranties, insurance, regulatory compliance, public safety in an integrated manner, and all at the same time. So here the fit is very strong because you have a group of companies and they are executing a very complex process. Okay, across an entire ecosystem, let's say the trading ecosystem, and blockchain can come in and manage all of uh, the aspects that make this process very complicated or that make this process complex, and it is done in an integrated manner so that everyone, all of the entities within the blockchain are uh, speaking to each other, more or less, or communicating with each other, or have real-time information about the transactions or the processes that are happening. Okay, and it is being done simultaneously. Okay, and it's not one after the other, but everyone has visibility at the exact same time. Okay, so even if it's, let's say, a very complex process like building an airplane, or you have parts shipped in to change any component of let's say a Boeing or a fighter pilot, then from the moment the part is ordered till the moment it is fitted into the plane, all of these processes can be very seamlessly integrated into the blockchain network. Okay, so the asset purchase, the financing, the warranty, you can just try and relate all of these parameters with the uh, the the example that I was just telling you in terms of replacing an aeroplane part. Okay, so you have the asset purchasing, you have the financing, you have the warranty, you have the insurance, you have regulatory compliance, obviously, because it's an airplane, and you have public safety also coming into picture. All of these can be integrated and executed very seamlessly using the blockchain network. So it is in such systems that you really find an opportunity with blockchain. Okay, so I hope this is more or less clear in terms of where the blockchain opportunities are. Now let's look at the blockchain opportunity specifically from the financial sector, because that is where we are slowly moving into in our session. We will now slowly move into the cryptocurrency segment of our session, where we are looking at the application of blockchain when it comes to our economy and the financial industry, so to say. So let's here we are looking at how blockchain can have an impact on finance. Blockchain has the potential to replace processes that are defined inside finance, primarily because, again, it has implications in terms of cost and control. The more interesting aspect of the blockchain network is in that the finance can intersect with the supply chain management also. So again, with the example of the buying of the airplane component and integrating that into the plane, you can use the blockchain network to ensure that the financial aspects of your transaction are intersecting or integrated to the supply chain management aspect. So they are not two separate things, and they're happening together in unison. Okay. Here there are a set of examples that have been provided in how the blockchain can have impact in various industries and its impact for finance. So we have, let's say, a consortium of retailers, producers, and freight providers collaborating to ensure the integrity or authenticity of the product. Let's say it could be even a product like a prescription drug. Okay, so you have the retailer, the manufacturer, and the logistics provider all collaborating to ensure that the product that reach the end customer is authentic. And as you might know, there is a huge influx of fake products or duplicate products that are arriving in the market today. So and these fake products are so well made that you really cannot distinguish them from the original. But when you have these products shipped in through the blockchain network, each and every retailer can be 100% sure that the product that he is selling in the market is a genuine product, and each and every customer can also be rest assured that the product that he's buying off this blockchain network is a genuine product, because each and every product will be part of this blockchain and it will have a unique identifier. Okay, so you cannot have any fake or duplicate product becoming part of this blockchain network. Okay. Again, from the healthcare sector, we have an example where a group of companies are working together to track deductibles and out-of-pocket expenses across providers, insurance and prescription plans, pharmacies, life science companies, device manufacturers, patients, and employees. So this is basically the tracking of the PNL or the deductibles of this entire organization, which is actually integrated or which is actually liaised with so many third-party entities, be it insurance, prescription plans, pharmacies, life sciences companies, the device manufacturers, and so on. Okay. Then when it comes to manufacturing, again, you have implications where companies, customers, and even regulators are working together to monitor the manufacturing, sales, registration, and maintenance of large ticket assets in aerospace, defense, transportation, industrial equipment, and electronics. And coming to the financial applications, especially, the financial applications for blockchain apply to almost any kind of transaction processing. These examples are being piloted or moving into production in companies all around the world. Validating any kind of subledgers that can happen through the blockchain network. Any type of intercompany accounting and consolidations can happen through the blockchain network. Order to cash or procure to pay integration can happen. Revenue cycle can happen, or revenue cycle management can happen through the blockchain network. Trading finance, working capital and cash cycle improvement, fraud and risk detection, warranty accruals and management, capital planning and performance management. All of these aspects can be integrated into the blockchain network, because all of these aspects have a lot of complex processes involved and require interaction between several entities, and thus it makes sense for all of these activities to be carried over through the blockchain network. So especially with coming to the handling the financial aspect of any organization, these are some of the key or important applications of the blockchain network in terms of validating your ledgers, any kind of intercompany accountants, any kind of procure to pay or order to cash or order to pay transactions, your revenue cycle management, your capital planning and management, any kind of fraud and risk detection, your working capital management. All of these aspects can be integrated into the blockchain network. Okay. So that was a little bit about blockchain. What is blockchain? How blockchain can be beneficial? What are some of the uncertainties when it comes to blockchain? How blockchain works? And what are some of the implications for blockchain in business and especially in finance? Okay. So we are more or less done with the blockchain segment, and we are now moving on into the cryptocurrency segment. So any questions before we move into the cryptocurrency segment? Geethu, if you can select.
Yes, Nithin. We have a lot of positive feedback from the attendees.
Yep.
Many are happy with such an informative and wonderful session. We do have a question from Michael Raymond. His question is blockchain the future?
Is blockchain the future?
Yes.
It certainly looks like because we see that there is a huge potential for blockchain. We are still uncertain about what blockchain will evolve into, because blockchain cannot really stand on its own. There is a need for a lot of other entities. Let's even machine learning, data analytics, then sustainable computation. So there are a lot of variables in picture, but the basic framework is looks very interesting and very sustainable. And obviously there are going to be a lot of iterations that happen, and we are really not sure what the blockchain landscape looks like in the future. But like every other technology, it will continue to evolve. But looking at how things have been going, it really looks like blockchain as a technology is here to stay. Yeah.
Okay, Nithin, thank you. We do not have any other questions as of now. Rest of the questions were already covered. Yes.
Okay. So in that case, let's quickly move on into the the cryptocurrency segment of this session. So like I was saying, cryptocurrency is basically nothing but uh, an application of the blockchain network, okay, or the of the blockchain framework. It is a method of incentivizing the participants within the blockchain, okay. And in fact, the blockchain system itself was created around the Bitcoin cryptocurrency, and then some of the other consequences or other applications of blockchain really started taking shape. But uh, in essence, the cryptocurrency is basically a form of incentivizing uh, the participants of the blockchain network, okay. So uh, there is an element of validation that needs to happen and computation that needs to happen within the blockchain network. And for every validation or every computation that happens, the person or the entity that is providing the computation or doing the validation is rewarded using the rewarded using a value system or an incentive, and that basically becomes uh, the 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 cryptocurrency of that particular blockchain network, okay. So Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency of the Bitcoin blockchain network. So any person who mines bitcoins uh, or who basically ensures the the integrity of the data that is being put as blocks in the Bitcoin stands to earn uh, bitcoins, okay. So it's a form of incentivizing uh, any kind of transactions or any kind of activity that happens within the network. So again, if you are doing any kind of transaction through the Bitcoin network, you can transact in terms of Bitcoin, okay. So say for example, you want to purchase something through the Bitcoin network, obviously you can make that transaction happen using bitcoins. You can send out a certain number of bitcoins to the person you want to buy it from, and the person can then basically provide the service for you, okay. So that is basically what cryptocurrency is all about. It's basically a medium of exchange created and stored electronically within the blockchain, obviously using encryption technologies to control the creation of money units and to verify the transfer of funds within the network, okay. Some very important things that you need to know about the cryptocurrency is that the cryptocurrency in itself has no intrinsic value, okay. It is not redeemable for any other commodity. It is something that exists within the Bitcoin network. Obviously you have provisions to convert your Bitcoin into actual cash. It's called the fiat currency. So you have that opportunity, but without the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin itself as a currency does not hold any intrinsic value, okay. Obviously it does not have any physical form and only exists within the network, but I think that also applies to any kind of currency or cash that we have operating right now in our economy. It really does not, although it does have physical form, most of our transactions are just entries in a ledgers, in our ledgers in the bank, okay. So yes, cash has physical form, but almost all of our transactions these days are online, and uh, cash or money is slowly losing its physical form, okay. So and that is very much true for cryptocurrency as well. uh, and the most important aspect of cryptocurrency and what makes it so different and controversial from any kind of other currency is that its supply is not determined by a central bank or a central authority, even a country. And the network is completely decentralized. Okay, the amount of Bitcoin that comes into the network is not determined by any central agency or central authority, which is contrary to what is the case in our ordinary money system. Okay, because how much money needs to flow into the country is a decision that is being taken by. Okay, so that is not the case in the cryptocurrency system, because the cryptocurrency network does not really have a centralized authority or a centralized agency, and the amount of currency that is generated within the system is not dependent on any single entity. Okay, it is totally decentralized. Okay, so right now we have around, I guess, 21 million or 21 billion worth of Bitcoins in the market right now. So it keeps changing. So that is a value that is very intrinsically determined by the number of participants and the transactions that are happening within that blockchain network. So that is what really makes cryptocurrency different from any other currencies. Now let's look at how cryptocurrencies are created. Okay, so one very common way in which cryptocurrencies are created is through this process called mining, which is the case in the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. Mining is actually tied into the proof of work or the activity that the participants in the blockchain network are doing in order to ensure the integrity of that particular block that gets added into the blockchain. Okay, so what mining basically is that it's a very energy intensive process in which the computers which are the nodes of the blockchain network, they try and solve complex puzzles in order to verify the authenticity of the transactions that are happening in the network. Okay, so once all these competing computers try and solve the puzzle that is associated with verifying the authenticity of a transaction, uh, the winning computer or the winning node will get some Bitcoins as reward. Okay, for the newly created for completing the transaction or ensuring the authenticity of the transaction, they get a reward in terms of cryptocurrencies. Okay, so that is the case in terms of Bitcoin, and this process is called Bitcoin mining. So you might have heard that term. So this is what is really happening. Okay, the Bitcoin miners are basically solving complex uh, puzzles created by the Bitcoin system itself in order to verify the authenticity of the transaction that is happening over the network, and the winning computer or the owner of the computer that actually solved the puzzle will get some Bitcoins as a reward for spending that much his computer or that energy in order to validate the transaction. Okay, and other cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum and so on have different methods to create and distribute what are called tokens. Okay, token is very similar to coin, but it is a little different. We will discuss about that in our subsequent slides. But uh, each each blockchain network or each cryptocurrency network has its own unique way of creating and distributing tokens, but it more or less revolves around the fact that uh, using these tokens, they're incentivizing the mechanism of validating all of the transactions that are happening in the network. Okay, so if you provide your computational power to validate the transaction that is happening in the network, you basically get rewarded in the form of currencies or coins. Okay, so the network becomes more and more stable, secure, and larger. And as the network becomes more and more stable, secure, and larger, more and more bitcoins or more and more tokens get created into the system, and they're distributed among all of the people who are participating in that network. Okay, so that is the fundamental principle behind the creation of cryptocurrency. But because this is a very complex process and you need a lot of technical understanding, for most of us, how we can own cryptocurrency or earn cryptocurrency is to buy it. Okay, and you have either you can use an exchange, and mostly it is happening through exchanges where you can basically buy cryptocurrencies using cash or using the regular money. You can buy cryptocurrencies in exchange for the money that you're shelling out. Okay, and each cryptocurrency has a certain amount of value, and based on the value of the cryptocurrency and the amount of money you have put in, you will get an equivalent amount of cryptocurrency in your account. Okay, that's as simple as how it works. Okay, so this is a little bit about how cryptocurrencies are created and how you can earn cryptocurrencies. And now let's very quickly look at what are some of the main types of cryptocurrencies that are available. It will interest you to know that there are tens of thousands of cryptocurrencies available today, and there are more than 10,000 cryptocurrencies similar to Bitcoin that are available in the market today. Okay, so obviously the first and foremost cryptocurrency is the Bitcoin. Okay, it is the world's widely accepted form of cryptocurrency, and it has now reached a stage where it has become quite expensive. Okay, in 2021, the cost of one Bitcoin was around $68,000, and it has come to a stage where you really cannot own one single Bitcoin unless you have millions and millions of dollars to spend. Basically, as of now, most people are owning a part of a Bitcoin, okay, or a fraction of a Bitcoin. Apart from Bitcoins, there are several other cryptocurrencies which together are called altcoins. Okay, the most popular altcoin is what's called Ethereum, which is another one of the, apart from Bitcoin, one of the most fastest growing cryptocurrency network. Okay, and there are also a range of other cryptocurrencies such as Shiba Inu, Terra, Lucky Block, and so on. And here it's also important for us to understand the difference between an altcoin or a coin and a token. Okay, the main difference is that what is being mined is coin and not tokens. Okay, and coin is what are directly linked to the blockchain and not the token. And the tokens are basically used for any kind of purchases. Okay, so let's say if you've heard of the concept of the metaverse, okay, that Facebook was recently renamed as Meta, and they're along with Facebook, a lot of other companies are also working on the metaverse, where they're really creating a digital universe or a digital world. So within the metaverse itself, there are several small universes. Let's say one example is Sandbox, and if you want to do any kind of transaction in the Sandbox, then there is a token unique to the Sandbox platform or the Sandbox universe that you need to buy. Okay, and any kind of transactions within the Sandbox universe can happen only through this Sandbox token, and your Ethereum coins or your Bitcoins can be converted into these Sandbox tokens. and then you can own these sandbox tokens to, let's say, purchase land in that universe, the sandbox universe, or own any property within that sandbox universe, and so on. And it might interest you to know that some pieces of land within these meta universes, mind you, they are not physical land, they are imaginary digital spaces. They have been sold for more than 20 or 30 million dollars. Okay, so that is the kind of uh, rave or interest that is being generated in the cryptocurrency world. Okay, so just some information for you. So these are basically the different types of bitcoins that you have, I mean cryptocurrencies that you have here. And I've also listed here some of the important cryptocurrencies that we have out there in the market. Starting with Bitcoin, you can see the market capitalization, the total number of available coins, and the total coins. The market cap for Bitcoin, when I took the slide, was at around $387.97 billion. Okay. So yeah, these are just some of the most important cryptocurrency coins that you have as of now. Now let's finally discuss some advantages and disadvantages when it comes to dealing with cryptocurrencies. Because as business, as people who are looking at opportunities to implement cryptocurrency in your business, or whether you're looking at it as an individual investor, you need to be aware of some of the key advantages and disadvantages, or areas of concern when it comes to cryptocurrency. So the advantages, they are private and secure. Okay, there is user anonymity, nobody knows who's owning what. So there is high level of security and privacy. It is completely decentralized, immutable, and transparent. I mean, nobody can steal your money. No central authority is having a look at how much you hold. Okay. So it's really like there's really nothing that anyone can do to sort of take your money away from you, or looking at how much money you own in the system, and so on. Okay, so it's completely decentralized, immutable, and transparent. And they are a hedge against inflation. Okay, so if there is a lot of inflation that is happening, then cryptocurrency may be a good opportunity, because it's not really dependent on the inflationary forces. Okay, because the generation of cryptocurrency, like I said, is purely dependent on the users and the transactions that are happening within the network, the cryptocurrency network, and it's totally decentralized. So it has been compared to owning gold. Okay, so gold is usually the asset that people are interested to buy. Gold, real estate are usually the kind of assets that people are interested to buy in times of inflation. So cryptocurrency can also be a good alternative when it comes to inflation as a choice of investment. Okay, so just like gold, there is a limited supply, there is a cap on mining any type of cryptocurrency. So you can more or less equate a cryptocurrency with gold, because there is value, there is only a limited supply of gold available in the world. So it will always be associated with some kind of value. Okay, and there is really a limit on how much gold can be mined. Okay, so that is why mostly people sort of associate cryptocurrency with an asset like gold. Finally, let's look at some of the disadvantages with cryptocurrency. They're not widely understood. It's a very new concept, and long-term sustainability is really not clear. There is very high risk. It's a very volatile and speculative market. Okay, so maybe if you're aware of the recent trends, there has been a huge dip in the cryptocurrency market, and prices of many of the cryptocurrencies have fallen. So there's a lot of, it's a very speculative market and a lot of uncertainty. And a lot of people, including Warren Buffett, have condoned people investing a huge amount of money in the cryptocurrency market, and predict that it's just like any other bubble, because they say the currency itself does not have any underlying value. I mean, you are not creating anything of value using cryptocurrency. It's just another form of currency. Okay, so a major deterrent in terms of the whole cryptocurrency rave is that it is not something that has any intrinsic or inherent value. Okay, and the moment people lose interest in the network, then the value of the currency moves down to zero. Okay, you're not holding any asset of real value. It's only the value of the currency is only as good as the number of people who are interested to own it. Okay, the moment there is no demand, immediately the currency or the coins that you hold do not have any inherent value. Okay, so that's a major deterrent in terms of investing. It's easy to see how simple speculations over the internet itself can result in a substantial rise or loss of value of these coins. Okay, so that's again an evidence of the inherent speculative nature of this kind of currency or this kind of asset, digital asset. Okay, and a lot of countries are taking a very speculative and defensive stand on cryptocurrencies. Say, for example, in a country like India, it is not legal for you to absolutely own these kind of currencies. You need to own them through a set of government approved agencies, and I mean, things are still, the framework is still being set up. No one is really clear, but a lot of countries are taking a very speculative stand. So that can be an issue, because then you really cannot do any kind of transaction using this currency in that particular country. And obviously there is an issue with regards to scalability. Okay, that's related to the technology side of things, and I think we have already discussed that there's a huge amount of energy that is being invested in the creation of these cryptocurrencies or in the mining of these cryptocurrencies. So how sustainable they are, especially when there are a huge amount of transactions, and even when it comes to micro transactions, are really not clear. And this is just what cryptocurrency can do for your company. First, cryptocurrencies can allow you to access new demographic groups, because 40% of customers who pay with crypto are new customers to the company. Okay, so there's an opportunity for new customer acquisition with cryptocurrencies. Introducing cryptocurrencies may spur internal awareness in your company about this technology, and it may also help position your company for the future. It can enable you to access new capital and liquidity pools through traditional investments that have been tokenized, which basically means they accept cryptocurrency as a form of payment. Cryptocurrencies furnish certain options that are simply not available with fiat currency. For example, programmable money can enable real-time and accurate revenue sharing while enhancing transparency to facilitate back office reconciliation. So obviously, some advantages with the when compared to the fiat currency, but those are getting more or less insignificant because fiat currency is also being dealt online these days. Again, companies, third-party organizations that you can engage with, such as clients or vendors who want to engage using crypto, because it's a very safe and transparent form of transaction. Yeah, so that's one advantage or benefit. And cryptos can also provide a new avenue for enhancing a host of more traditional treasury activities, such as secure money transfer, strengthening control over the capital of the enterprise. A lot of organizations are storing some of their capital in Bitcoins and managing the risk and opportunities of engaging in digital investments. Okay, so crypto can actually serve as an effective alternative to balance your cash, asset to cash, and cash can depreciate over time due to inflation, whereas cryptocurrency is more or less safe when it comes to inflationary responses. So it is an investable asset, and some, such as Bitcoin, have done well over the last 5 years. They've really taken off in terms of their value, but obviously there are some volatility and uncertainty risks that are involved with cryptocurrency. So this is a list of some things that crypto can really do for you as a business organization. And with that, I would like to close. So yeah, we can take some questions now.
Thank you, Nithin, for such an informative session. We do have a few questions.
Yep.
So the first question is from Mr. Victor. He's asking, what is the difference between cryptocurrency and NFTs?
Okay. So NFT is non-fungible token, and NFT is basically a digital representation of the physical asset that you are owning. Okay, so let's say you have a photograph. Okay, you've taken a very good photograph, or you've created a music video, and you basically want to share it and create revenue out of it, or do anything with it. And basically you have to first create a digital copy or digital representation of it that is unique and cannot be duplicated. So a non-fungible token basically allows you to do that. And cryptocurrency is very similar to cash. Okay, so if you have to buy an NFT from somebody else, you really like an NFT, which is, let's say, a digital picture that I took and created as an NFT. And if you want to buy that NFT from me, then you need to give me, you need to buy it from me using cryptocurrency. Okay, so non-fungible tokens are basically a digital representation of any physical asset that you're owning, and cryptocurrency basically allows you to hold or acquire NFTs.
Okay, Nithin. We do have another question from Mr. Connie Modis. How secure is it to use cryptocurrency, as cybersecurity is still a major concern?
So like I was saying, security is really one area where cryptocurrency really does not have an issue, because as we discussed when we were looking at the blockchain framework, there is really no way anybody can hack into the the blockchain, or for that matter, the cryptocurrency network, because that is how the system is created. Okay, so in order to make any sort of alterations or modifications to any block within the blockchain network, which essentially translates into the cryptocurrency network as well, you need to hack into all of the preceding blocks that are part of that blockchain. And you need consensus from all of the nodes that are part of the network. So because of these two things, it is virtually impossible. And since its inception, a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin has never been hacked. So that more or less says that it's an impenetrable network. Yeah.
We do have another question from Debnath. Is blockchain and crypto mining sustainable careers to pursue?
I mean, there are a lot of people who are doing it full time, and I'm not really sure. It totally depends on you. But yeah, there are a lot of uncertainties involved in it, and it's certainly something that you can look at doing if it's something that interests you. Yeah.
We'll take one more question from Wisdom Bruce. In which way do you think cryptocurrency becomes a booster to business? And do you think it's a safe to an organization to engage in this act?
Yeah, so that's what we were mostly discussing in this last slide, how crypto becomes an added asset to your business. It allows you to reach out to new demographic groups, because 40% of your customers who pay with crypto are new customers to that company. Then it is enabling you to position yourself for the future, because in case that is the future, then it will be really good if you hold some cryptocurrency assets. Then it allows you to do some activities that are really not possible, mostly help you to do things more real time and in a more secure manner. Okay, and it also sort of balances off any inflationary issues that can come. Okay, so all these are ways in which cryptocurrencies can help boost your business.
Okay. We have one question from blockchain actually. How do blockchain computing network owners benefit from this? This is a question from Mr. Meko.
Yeah, so basically, if you're part of that network, then for the validation that you're doing within the network, you can basically earn bitcoins. Okay, and in other cryptocurrency networks, there are even some other ways also by which if you are becoming part of the network, you get rewarded. Okay, say for example, you are pushing some of your cryptocurrency into the network. Again, that is building trust within the network. So for people who push their cryptocurrency into the network, they also get rewarded through the network. So there are several ways by which you can do that, but obviously mining or validating or proof of work or the validation that happens within the network is the primary way in which you are benefited if you become part of the network.
So thank you so much, Nithin, for such an elaborative and informative session. And most of the participants has indeed enjoyed it a lot. So yes, thanks. Thank you again. So before we wind up, on behalf of Athena, I would encourage everyone to connect with us through our Instagram handles. The participants may revisit the webinar from our YouTube UniAthena page. So many of you have been asking for slides actually. So you can revisit our YouTube page. And all those who are looking for short courses, graduate, master's programs in blockchain or data analytics or any other stream, Please log into our UniAthena page. We offer varied courses to help learners worldwide progress in their career. So log into your page and get in touch with us for more details on the course and the flexibility that we provide. Once again, on behalf of UniAthena, I would like to thank Mr. Panelist, Mr. Nithin Kurien, for such a lovely and wonderful session. And I also appreciate the cooperative participant of all the attendees. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for participating.